Is technology at your work distracting you from actual work? Do you spend too much time troubleshooting PC or internet issues? IT Enabled can help. Our team of IT specialists can help you tackle your technology troubles and get you focused on growing your business in no time. Call to schedule your technology consultation. 936-225-3329. IT Enabled. We're here to help.
We're excited to have Veronica Amoe. She is the museum director of the Naranjo Museum of Natural History with us today. Welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you give everybody a little bit about your background?
Yeah.
And then we'll jump into the museum.
Absolutely. So I started at the museum the summer before they opened as a museum intern. And I was with the graphic design program at SFA. And Peter Andrew, who was my art professor, is one of the artists who works on the murals in the museum. So he connected me with Dr. Naranjo, and I started working on museum graphics, so adding labels and information to the exhibits. And that August I graduated, and they needed somebody to run the museum, so I was just at the right place at the right time. And I've been there ever since, so almost 9 years.
Wow.
So
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the museum. For those that are not familiar with it, that have never been, what can they expect when they walk into the museum?
Absolutely. So the museum it's a smaller building, but I've had so many visitors that walk in and they're so overwhelmed with how much is in there and how vast the collection is. So the museum started with Dr. Naranjo's collection of fossils and artifacts. He was always interested in history and science and a big advocate for education. So when he started the museum, it was important for him to put it in the community that he was born and raised in. He was born and raised in Lufkin. So he just decided to open the museum and share his collection with the public, and that's how we got started. And then in 2016, the Naranjo family donated the museum building and grounds to the community. So now we're governed by a board of community members and everything. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So what do you like most about the museum? What's your favorite part?
So my favorite exhibit is our fossilized egg exhibit. It's just super interesting. You've got these fossilized dinosaur eggs, and then Dr. Naranjo took them to Woodland Heights, who donated CAT scans of them.
Awesome.
And of course, a CAT scan allows you to see inside of it. So you see the fossilized embryos or the baby dinosaurs fossilized in their eggshells, which is really neat. So, and I just enjoy that, every day is different. One day I'll be driving a fossil over to Tyler. The next day, we're organizing a new event. So it's just something different that I get to do every day.
I think that it's such a beautiful museum and that people are shocked when they walk in.
Yes.
I mean, first of all, you've got a pterodactyl flying through the air.
Yeah.
You've got a full standing T-Rex. You've got we call it Sarah, Triceratops.
Yes.
We love Littlefoot.
Yeah.
But, for Lufkin to have a museum of this quality, it is a jewel in East Texas.
Yeah, so the Naranjo family did a lot of research before and they really wanted to be a small piece of what people would experience in a larger city. So he really wanted the exhibits to be world class, and we had some amazing artists and engineers and contractors working on these exhibits, and they are really amazing. I mean, and they're mostly real. Most of the fossils you'll see in the museum are real, straight out of the ground, and we've got several full-scale dinosaur skeletons, which is really impactful to see. So,
And that's opposed to cast fossils, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah,
really
we do
popular in
have some.
museums.
Yeah, we do have some replicas, and a lot of larger museums will do replicas to preserve the real ones, and they'll keep them in storage.
Gotcha.
But Dr. Naranjo wanted to put the real thing, and you'll see photos of them with the same fossil in the ground, so they get to see that progression from Montana, and after they clean it, and then what it looks like in the exhibit.
So where has he found the majority of the fossils?
So a lot of the larger fossils come from Montana, an area called Hell Creek Formation. So he connected with a cattle rancher up there who had thousands of acres of land, and that's one thing. People think you can just dig up fossils anywhere, but you have to have permission from the landowner. And kind of like a deer lease, Dr. Naranjo will lease the land, but he's not hunting for deer; he's hunting for fossils. So he'll dig, sometimes they're up there for 2 weeks and they don't find much of anything. Other times, like our Marian hadrosaur is one of the most special pieces in the museum. I think he found that maybe the second day before they were supposed to leave.
Oh, wow.
And so he had to call Marian, his wife, and be like, I'm going to be here a little bit longer because we found something really cool. So, but yeah, that's where he finds most of the fossils. But he digs wherever he goes. I mean, they've done digs in Oklahoma, here in Texas. If he travels in another country, he tries to work out some type of dig for artifacts and
Right.
things. So
That's
he just digs wherever
fantastic.
he can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that he was actually digging for these.
Yes, him and his crew. We've got our curator Charlie Grumbles that goes with him. His kids Jennings, Naranjo, Katie have been on digs.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
So how do the exhibits? Obviously, some of them are dug. Is that where all the exhibits come to the museum, or just like his personal collection, or are they acquired from other museums? How does that work?
So it's a combination of things. So things he's collected just from other collectors over time. We've got fossils that date before the dinosaurs. Most of the dinosaur skeletons come from Montana. The artifacts come from all over the world, and then his family too were avid collectors. So he has
Interesting.
stuff that's been passed down over his family and different generations. And then we have a few things that have been donated to the museum. We've got collectors all over East Texas, which that's interesting because you never know who all is collecting, and then
Yeah.
you open a museum and they're like, well, I've got this collection of whatever, and they'll donate a few pieces to the museum as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So why do you think it's important for Lufkin to have a museum like this?
So one of the main influences for the Naranjo family to start a museum is they wanted children and families of East Texas to have access to a natural history museum, to dinosaurs and things that would, come to life for them, things that they're learning about in the classroom. They would really wanted to come to life without having to drive 2 hours, because some of the closest museums to this area are, an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Right.
Natural history museums. So they wanted to just create that accessibility to the exhibits, to things that you might see all over the world without having to travel all over the world to see them. So that was one of the main influences. And I think it's just important. Like I said, there's so much, when I was a kid, I have memories of going to museums. Some of the field trips are more memorable than things I might learn in a classroom. So I think it's important that those kind of go hand in hand, that kids are not only learning at school or at home, but they're also getting out in the world, getting into museums and learning.
They get to actually see what they've learned about.
Yes, they can see the dinosaurs that were in their book. They can see the artifacts they're learning about from this ancient civilization. So
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great.
And you've got a pretty captive audience there with the kids. They're
Yes.
pretty big fans of the
the
of
museum is
dinosaurs.
for everyone. We've got senior groups that come from Houston and but the kids really do. They just light up when they go in there. It's so fun to see.
Well, and you've got a summer full of kids.
Yes, we're in summer camp season right now. So we'll do 8 weeks of camp, and every week we do a different theme and try to base it on something in the museum. So like I said, we'll learn in our little classroom, and then we'll go out in the museum and look at the real thing there. But that's a really great program that we have, and we've run that since 2013.
Yeah, Annalie, my daughter, has loved it for multiple times, and she loves coming to the museum and loves bringing her dad so that she can teach him what she's learned.
Oh yes, so some of those kids will teach me stuff too. They'll go in and I'll have to. Oh, you're right. That is,
That's
great.
awesome. That's awesome. So what type of events other than summer camps do you have planned for the year?
So every Halloween we do a family fright night. This is a Halloween event. Dr. Naranjo also really likes Halloween, so we decorate the museum with ghosts and fun Halloween exhibits, so it's not too scary, but we invite families for an evening to come, and they'll do little booths, and we'll pass out candy. And we actually just recently rescheduled our museum gala. So we had to postpone our gala, like many people had to postpone events because of COVID, and we just rescheduled it for Saturday, November 13th. So that'll be our annual. It's called Dancing with Dinos, and it's our annual fundraiser for the museum.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's always a fun event. So how did COVID-19 really affect y'all?
So we got through one spring break week in March, and then the next weekend we had our museum gala. Scheduled. And for a while, it happened so quickly, we thought, oh, we're not going to have to reschedule. This isn't going to have to happen. And then sure enough, the weekend before, I was on the phone with our board, and we were, making plans to, postpone that. And then we had to shut down the museum. We were closed for 2 months. And then luckily with some changes, because we were, and in those 2 months, I know us along with a lot of museum professionals and everyone were just in full research mode. We were on the internet. We were accessing CDC information, museum information. We're just information overload at times. But we were able to reopen in May with some protocols in place. And then we've been open since. But, things were slow. That season that we were closed, April and May, is the field trip season. So that wiped out all field trips, all group trips. And and summer was a little bit slower, but slowly things have gotten better. Our spring break this year was amazing. Our visitors have also been very understanding. They were just ready to come back to the museum when we reopened. So we are doing really great now. We're very, very grateful because museums and arts and culture in general were hit hard. Just because they were kind of put on the back burner for a while. It wasn't a big priority to go to the museums, but we're just glad that the community continued to come when we reopen and everything.
That's great.
It's such a great museum, and if you've never been there, we really urge you to go check it out. I mean, just when you first walk in, it's really just breathtaking what we have here in East Texas as a museum like that. So how can people support the museum? I mean, it's such a great asset for us to have. Obviously, you mentioned the gala. That's a big thing. So
so the museum gala is a big part. It's our major annual fundraiser. There's tickets and tables, and we'll do dancing, and there's auctions and everything. Just to come to the museum, our admissions help with our operational revenue, so that helps us keep the lights on at the museum and keep the air conditioning on.
That's an important part.
Yes, it is, especially this summer.
Yeah.
But also we have memberships. So our museum memberships is something that you can get, and you get, it includes annual admission, so you can come to the museum anytime you want. Those special programs and events, you can come for free. So that's a great way. And then just to donate to the museum, we have our website, naranjomuseum.org, that they can donate to. And also just share the information. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have our website. So just sharing information with friends and family. And that's a lot of our visitors. They're like, oh, my friend went to the museum and they loved it and they told us about it. So that's great. Word of mouth is great advertising for a museum. So
that's right. Well, we encourage all the listeners, no matter what age you're at, go to the museum and see it, because it is definitely eye-opening, and it's a beautiful museum and one that we're very proud of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So before we go, where can people find you? Where can people find the museum? Where can they learn more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is www.naranjomuseum.org, and Naranjo is Naranjo. Our museum is on 59 South. Our address is 5104 South 1st Street. Admission is $7.50 for adults, $5 for kids, 4 to 18. 3 and under are free. And we do have museum memberships available. And like I said, we're also pretty active on social media, Facebook, Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming in and telling us about the museum. And again, like Tara said, if you haven't been to this already, please go. It's just amazing that you can go see a full-size T-Rex in Lufkin, Texas. It's unbelievable. And we want to thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. If you'll do us a huge favor, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you want to catch the video version of this podcast, it is available on the Chamber YouTube page and on the Chamber Facebook page. Thank you so much, and have a great week.